What is up, my fellow gamers? In today's video, we are going over some different builds for the brand new Ice Blast damage type heroes in Dragonheir Silent Gods Season 2. Like and sub for more amazing gaming content. Click the link down below in the description box and download Dragonheir Silent Gods now and start your journey in Season 2. Brand new season, span new game. Dragonheir is a season-based game that will officially launch Season 2 Fall of Increscent on December 15th. Introducing new sandbox, new strategy, and new optimization experience, just like a brand new game. Really quick, we'll just go ahead and show all of the current active coupon codes that you can use in Dragonheir to get some free in-game resources. We're gonna go over the rare and epics first. We're gonna work our way up from the bottom to the top. First one we have is the Northland Warrior Nord. Now this is the only rare hero that we have from the Ice Blast team. He doesn't really have anything crazy going on with his battle skill or his ultimate. It's pretty decent, does some decent damage. But what we're going to be trying to take advantage of with this build is going to be his passive ability, this part right here specifically. When the hero deals damage, we got a 20% chance of granting a stack of ice crystal to the Ice Blast ally with the highest attack other than this hero. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and increase our attack interval as much as possible. Or I should say, I guess the way you would put it is reduce our attack interval as much as possible. So that way we can just get tons of attacks off. So that way every time we deal some type of damage, whether it's through our basic attack, our battle skill, or our ultimate skill, we have that chance to give one of our big damage dealing Ice Blast heroes an extra ice crystal. So for that instance, we're going to take a look at the gear. The main type of gear we're going for is any gear that's going to give us attack plus percentage along with the attack speed plus 20%. So we're getting extra attack and we're getting that attack speed. This is a legendary set, but I believe there is an epic set that's kind of similar to this, but just with lower numbers. But this is like the two main stats you're looking for, attack and attack speed. From there, we're looking for our substats that are going to have to do again with stuff like attack, crit rate, crit damage is something that's like not like super sought after for this specific hero. I would say you really want to use this hero mostly defensively. They're not really going to be putting a lot of attack damage on necessarily. From what I've done using them, they tend to get destroyed fairly quickly because they are a rare. Their stats are just naturally a lot lower than like a legendary or an epics. So for that instance, I've been trying to kind of look for stats to buff like their HP and defense and use them more so just to be out there as long as possible and do lots of attacks to constantly trigger that passive ability. Not really using them as a huge offensive threat to kind of compete at those higher challenge difficulties for stuff like certain bosses and just harder difficulty levels at that. For our ruins, we're strictly looking for that attack speed percentage for our substat. The main stat doesn't really matter. You'll see mine's showing crit damage, but you could go with whatever you want, attack, HP, percentage, whatever. But that attack speed right there is the most important. Skill haste also isn't too bad either. As far as the artifacts go, there's like a few different artifacts that you can kind of choose from, but I felt like this was an interesting one. When the wearer launches a basic attack, we have a 20% chance of gaining a percentage of extra attack speed for an amount of time. This effect can only be triggered once every 10 seconds. So I feel like this was going to be our best bet for what we're trying to accomplish with this hero. For our next hero, we have our epic, and this is the Tundra Ranger. Now, our build for him is going to be, again, messing around with his passive. When the hero's skill triggers a crit hit, we got a chance to grant one stack of ice crystal to one Ice Blast ally. So because of that, we really want to buff our crit chance as high as possible. Our battle skill does have some crit hit increase built into it. Currently, right now, you'll see that the crit rate that I have it at is 14% plus 85% from all of the gear and stuff. So roughly, we're looking at what? 99% crit rate, which is kind of overkill when our battle skill goes ahead and gives us an increase of 20%. So really, this is, you don't need to have it super maxed out. Even just having it at something like 90% is fairly strong, because that's a little bit of extra crit rate that we could have in our crit damage. And even our ultimate skill has a built-in extra percentage for our crit hit at the bottom. Now there's like two different ones that I'm gonna recommend, and the first one would be like the Emperor set, and that's because again we're getting that skill haste plus 20, which is gonna be very important. Also though, if you feel like you're struggling with your crit rate, you can also just go with the crit rate set that gives you extra plus 15% attack and then extra crit rate too. But the skill haste is going to feel a little bit better. For our positive and negative ruins, we got crit damage as a main stat. Looking for skill haste as a substat if you can get one. For our artifact, this one is going to give us a little bit of buff to our crit rate, but I do like the special ability we get from it. And this is only at 13. So like once we go ahead and max this out at 20, that's 40% crit rate we are getting straight from our artifact, which is good, because that's going to allow us to kind of focus more on crit damage for our specific gear. Anytime you can find that either has crit rate or crit damage as one of its two stats, and it has a really good skill that will go along with that hero, you want to really take advantage of that and try and make your artifacts where you get all of your crit rate or all of your crit damage from, so that way you can focus more on attack percentage and then the complete opposite of whatever your artifact is. So for this instance, we're going with like heavy crit rate on our artifact. That means we can focus more on crit damage and attack for our gear, as opposed to, let's say if we had crit damage right here, it'd be like a plus 80%, I think is what it is maxed out. Then we could focus more on crit rate and attack percentage for our gear. Our next one we have is the Maritime Miner. This one's pretty easy to build out. His passive ability gives us a chance to ignore 30% of the enemy's defense, so we want to buff our attack as high as possible. But the battle skill is really important because we want this to trigger as much as possible to get those stacks really quickly. So the skill damage stacks up to 10% each time we launch this battle skill. So we really want to increase stuff like our skill haste. For our gear, we're really just looking for something like attack percentage along with skill haste is really strong. As far as the artifact goes, this is the Blooms of Prina. I think this specific artifact works great on this hero. When the wearer consumes ice crystals, their next battle skill deals an extra percentage of damage. So this kind of goes hand in hand because our battle skill is already going to be increasing damage, right? The skill damage stacks up to 10% each time. So we're going to stack this really, really quick. And then by having this artifact on there, when we consume an ice crystal, which we're constantly going to be doing, we're getting an extra percentage of damage. Our next epic hero we have is the Ravenant Frostblade Girthin. This one, we're strictly building crit rate and crit damage because of our passive ability, which upon obtaining an ice crystal, we gain crit damage up for an amount of time, and we gain an ice crystal if we destroy an enemy. And then our ultimate ability, we just deal a bunch of damage and we gain a stack of ice crystal. So we really want to look out for buffing our crit rate as much as possible, so that way we can fully take advantage of our passive skill. So this one's a little bit tricky to build out because we really need to focus on attack, crit rate, and crit damage, which are three kind of difficult stats to really get on all of your equipment. For our artifact, I went with Wine of Dragon Blood. This one, this one felt a little bit tough to kind of find an artifact because there's just a wide variety of different artifacts that you can kind of put on this specific hero. It never felt like Girthin had one artifact that was like meant true to be put on them. There's just so many different options you can kind of go with. But I went with this epic one for right now. When the wearer launches an ultimate skill, we got a percentage chance of obtaining 20% extra crit rate for 10 seconds. So this just kind of gives us extra crit rate so we can focus a little bit more on our crit damage. This one doesn't have anything super unique. It just does a lot of damage. So pretty much just attack, crit rate, crit damage. We don't need to worry about accuracy at all. We're not putting status effects on the enemies. We're just kind of doing a lot of damage, and that's pretty much it for our artifact. And this is one that you can kind of put on any of the other heroes that I mentioned previously, the Rift Hourglass. The only downside to it is we get accuracy as a stat, and we really don't need accuracy at all, so we're kind of missing out. So I imagine there could be something else that you could put on this legendary hero, but I just like that we get that extra skill haste. And that's only because this specific hero just has really good skills. So we want our skills again to go off as much as possible. For our next legendary, we got the Devout Alkalite, strong passive ability, also with putting out derivative cold damage too. So those are the two main things we're looking for. Doing more derivative damage and also increasing our enlightenment stat. You'll see right now I got it at 226 with the gear that I have. So we're getting a huge buff to that. Just looking again for stats for our enlightenment to increase that, along with stuff like attack percentage, skill haste. For our artifact, we went with Queen's Fan, and we're getting that extra derivative damage dealt by the wearer. Gains a damage bonus based on the distance between us. So the further we are away from the enemy, the more derivative damage bonus we're going to get. And then our final legendary hero we got is the Glacial Sunbeam. For this specific hero, we're looking for skill haste, which is very important because of our passive. Damage dealt from the current skill will be increased by a percentage upon triggering this effect, up to 100% of the base damage. So anytime we go ahead and we cast our battle skill from consuming an ice crystal, we just want that to trigger as much as possible, so that way we constantly get in this cycle of using our ice, consuming our ice crystals, and launching 2 battle skills in a row. As far as our exclusive goes, we're getting a flat stat for our attack, and we're getting a crit rate. Now, when we do have this maxed out at 20, that's an extra 40% crit rate that we're getting. So that's out a tremendous amount, which really takes a lot of the stress off of our equipment and lets us focus a little bit more on looking for attack percentages and the crit damage. For our ruins, we got stuff like skill haste, crit damage, and then just attack as well. That is it. I hope you guys and girls enjoyed the video. Click the link down below in the description box and download Dragonheir Silent Gods right now and start your journey in Season 2. Brand new season, span new game. Stay happy, stay safe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.